Sarah died at 6:23 in the evening. The sun was going down and she was opening a letter from the taxation department in the last of the daylight. If you'd seen it when it happened, you mightn't have noticed. She was perfectly still. A moment passed, and she was still some more. She might not even have noticed. Thomas had only been awake for an hour when it happened. He'd been checking why the electricity wasn't working when he was zapped and thrown backwards. He hit his head on a brick and fractured his skull. It was another hour before anybody found him. Leon died at 3 in the afternoon.
Leon?
He had just made love for the first time to a girl he'd loved for 5 years.
Leon?
Leon could never get anything right. He'd even stuttered when he asked Sophie if she wanted to go out with him. Sarah's eyes looked into the black of her eyelids. No one would be visiting this week. Her home help, Lara, was not coming this Friday because her son was having his 10th birthday at the ice skating rink.
Thomas!
Thomas was found by his father, Ivan. Ivan had come to Australia as a refugee after his family and home were taken away one day. Even the front door had been stolen. Apart from Thomas, Ivan didn't know anyone else in Australia. Sophie felt like she had committed burglary. She didn't know if she could tell Leon's parents. Sarah had been trying to remember the good things when she died. She'd loved being a mother, being surrounded by children. Her daughter now worked in advertising, and Sarah had her advertisement for paint products stuck on the fridge. It had been her most successful campaign. Her daughter hadn't called this week. Ivan had moved Thomas into the lounge room because it was getting cold. He couldn't tell his neighbours what had happened because he couldn't speak English. He couldn't stop Thomas sticking his finger in the fuse box, and now he couldn't bury him either. Ivan hated this new country. He had never felt this useless at home. Leon's parents were Catholics. Sophie didn't know if the police asked questions when people died like this. Sophie wasn't ready to call them yet. Sophie wished Leon would look like he was dead. Sarah had wished that her husband had fixed the hole in the roof when she asked him to. That was 7 years ago now. Sarah's husband hadn't died like this. He was playing his violin when his heart stopped. He made a loud bang when he hit the floor. The song had been stuck in Sarah's head for months. Ivan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he thought of his son alone in the next room. If anyone tried to take Thomas away and Ivan was asleep, he would not be able to stop them.
Oh, Leon, baby, wake up!
Sophie had told the police Leon had died in the chair. She couldn't tell them what had really happened. How Leon's clothing had fallen away like wrapping paper. Sarah had been losing her memory before she died. Not in the way she forgot her daughter's phone number or why the house was empty, but more important things, like whether she was there or not. Sometimes there was a social worker who visited Ivan and Thomas. Maybe today would be the day. Ivan hoped it wasn't, because she might see Thomas was dead. But on the other hand, she might fix their heater, which had been broken for 3 weeks. Ivan had an idea. Sophie knew Leon would not keep the secret as long as she did.
Remove the body.
The police would poke around in him, and he would tell.
Wait.
Sophie couldn't bear the thought of somebody else touching Leon's body. Sarah no longer had to worry about the boiling water seeping through cracks in the linoleum. Had she been alive, she would have struggled to get to the stove. She'd wished she'd used her body more when she could. Thomas had never worn enough clothes in winter. Ivan never really thought about how big Thomas was before. He'd always just been Thomas size. But now Ivan needed to know the length of his arms, his waist, his width, and his height. Sophie never thought she could feel this bad. She hoped Leon's mother knew, even if she didn't say anything. Thomas had been gone for a week. Their social worker had responded to the incident by making Ivan take English lessons. Ivan didn't want to learn English. He wouldn't know what to say. Ivan didn't understand why things had to move forward all the time. Sophie didn't see the point of a bed that she couldn't sleep on. She still had Leon's smell on her skin.